and may the words of this gospel cleanse us of our sins. Amen. Good morning, dear brothers and sisters, and welcome to the reflection on the readings of today, Wednesday, the 11th week of ordinary time. When you give alms, when you pray, when you fast, these are three important phrases in the passage we read today. Our Lord Jesus Christ doesn't say, if you give alms, if you pray, and if you fast. The emphasis is when you give alms, pray, and fast. It means we have to be doing all these things. Not a conditional if you want, you do. It's a when you do. It's a question of time, not if. So Jesus presupposes that every Christian must pray, every Christian must give alms, and every Christian must fast. There is no argument about this, and that was why Jesus used the word when you do this, when you do that. So taking it for granted that we have to pray, we have to fast, and we have to give alms, how then do we go about doing it? That is another important point our Lord Jesus Christ makes in this gospel of today. He says, when you do all these three religious piety, you must not do them like the hypocrites. When you give alms, do not do it like the hypocrites. When you pray, do not pray like a hypocrite. When you give and when you fast, do not fast like a hypocrite. So who is a hypocrite? Hypocrite is a Greek word, hypokrites. It simply means an actor. An actor who goes to the stage to perform with the intention of being seen by others. That is the first meaning of the word hypocrite, an actor. A stage player, somebody who goes onto the stage to perform arts, theatrical arts, so that people could see him or her. Then the second meaning of a hypocrite is somebody who puts on a mask, behaving like some other person. So our Lord Jesus Christ mentioned very good times that we must not do all these religious activities like a hypocrite. So what does that mean? We must perform our religious obligations and our religious duties with the best of motives. If we must do them, then we must do them well. That is what Jesus is teaching us today. Why? Because the moment we go to pray with the wrong reasons, the moment we fast with the wrong reasons, or when we give alms with the wrong reasons, by the fact that we are doing them with the wrong reasons means that no reward comes to us from God the Father. If I only pick up my rosary to pray so that people will see me that I am praying, the mere fact that people have seen me and probably commended me, I have lost the reward. If I'm only doing charity so that people will see me and probably thank me for doing so, then I may have received my reward from them and not from God. If I am fasting with the intention of proving to others that, I am so powerful, I'm so disciplined, then I have also lost my reward. Then how should we do all these things? Our Lord Jesus Christ says there's what we call secrecy. God sees everything that is done in secret. And so he says when we do all these things, we must do them as secret as possible, as unannounced as possible, as untrumpeted as possible. In these three religious pieties, in these three religious obligations and duties, we see three forms of relationships. In prayer, it shows our relationship with God who is in heaven. In almsgiving, it shows our relationship with our brothers and sisters. And then in fasting, the attention is focused on us. Through fasting, we humble ourselves. Through fasting, we discipline ourselves. So, in disciplining ourselves, it should be between us and ourselves. You don't need to tell the whole world when you want to fast, I'm not eating today because I'm fasting. The moment you do that, you have lost the reward. So, in our relationship with ourselves, the only way we can discipline ourselves, train ourselves, and put ourselves in order is by fasting. That is the primary purpose of fasting, to work on ourselves. If there are passions you find difficult to overcome, fasting goes a long way to help you curtail that. If there are habits you have grown used to and you don't know how to go about stopping them, fasting goes on. So the purpose of fasting is on the self. It has nothing to do with the other. It is you primarily focusing on yourself and disciplining yourself spiritually. When you do that, the emphasis must not be on the other or on the public. It is within yourself. Then when we pray, prayer is the lifting up of our minds and hearts to God. So it is our relationship with God, and when we do that, it must be solely focused on God and not on people. When we do that, we are taking away the very reward that comes from God through prayer. And then lastly, when we give alms, I need to emphasize this, because the way people give alms these days has become more of a ostentatious act. People come to social media, snap pictures and place on social media, and you see people praising them, clapping for them, and still people defend it. So if you are a Christian and all you do when you want to give alms is to trumpet it before you, let people know, you have lost the reward. You are not doing it as a Christian. You are doing it as a hypocrite. There is no difference between you and a pagan who gives alms and let it be trumpeted, or a hypocrite who acts. So Jesus is teaching us the essence of giving. When you give, you deny yourself for the good of the other. So when you are doing that, our Lord Jesus Christ says it must be done in the most secret manner. Your right hand mustn't know what your left hand is doing, or your left hand mustn't know what your right hand is doing. It is important. In our world today, Christians have lost this understanding of almsgiving. A lot of people who go about trumpeting their goodness, you are not doing so as a Christian. It is not the Christian way of doing charity. So what we must shun today, or what Jesus is teaching us to overcome today, is acting. A lot of Christians act. A lot of Christians behave like hypocrites, and Jesus is emphatic on this. If we must become more Christian, if we must become more committed to the things we do, we must do it in a particular manner. Good things done with the wrong purposes and intentions lose their rewards. So my dear brothers and sisters, Jesus Christ is not telling us that if you like we can pray or do the alternative, or he's not putting all these three practices as alternatives. They are religious forms of obligations, things we must do. And that was why at the beginning he said, when you fast, when you pray, and when you give alms, it is not an option. Fasting is not an option. Fasting is not something left for probably the charismatics alone, or people who live in the monastery alone. Fasting is meant for every Christian. But it's not left for the other person to determine when you do that. You know yourselves. You know how weak or how miserable or poor as a Christian you are. If there are habits that are plaguing you, if there are passions that are weighing you down as a Christian, fasting becomes a tool to fight those things. Prayer too, and then almsgiving. These things are not alternatives. They are collectively things Jesus expects us to do when the time is right. Prayer, make out time for prayer. That is the meaning of when. When you wake up, as we say, Mass is here every day. It's part of the prayer, but the liturgical prayer and public worship. We also have personal and private prayers. There must be time for it. That is the meaning of when. The same thing with almsgiving. There must be time, occasions when the situation will warrant it. That is the when. And then fasting. When? Our Lord Jesus Christ told his disciples, a time will come when the bridegroom will be taken away from the people who have come for the wedding celebration, and then they will need to fast. When your relationship with God is not the way it should be, when your life as a Christian, when you know it, we have consciences, we have spiritual thermometers that determines the level of our spirituality. When it is not the way it should be, fasting becomes the necessary tool. I pray, my dear brothers and sisters, that through this teaching of our Lord Jesus Christ on prayer, almsgiving and fasting, we will examine ourselves and see where we are not getting them right and try the much we can to adjust. May God grant us the grace to do so through Christ our Lord. Amen. Intercessions. Lord Jesus, you loved us and gave yourself